Pesach is coming around the corner, and we see that the events that are going on in the world are related to the exodus of Egypt, and that's what I would like to talk about today. Leaving the exile and coming home to Eretz Yisrael, to the land of Israel. As we know, when Hashem brought the plague of darkness, 80% of the Jews stayed behind because they were happy with the comforts of Egypt. They said, we don't want to leave. We don't want to go to Israel. We have our food. It was kind of like a, socialist situation. It's true that they were slaves, but they had what they needed. They were comfortable, and they didn't want to take the risk to go to a new land. Even though God commanded them and brought them all these miracles. So he killed them in the plague of darkness so that there won't be a desecration of God's name. People won't think they died for some other reason. They got sick or whatever. But if he would have killed them openly, it would have looked bad. That why is God killing his own people? So therefore, that happened in the darkness. Another reason there was a plague of darkness is to separate, just like darkness separates from light, so too the nation of Israel, the Jewish people, have to separate from the other nations. It is not a racist thing. It's because we have our own way of life. And that is another thing that's related to this is the land of Israel. God gave us the land of Israel in order for us to fulfill our own destiny as a Jewish people and not be influenced by the other nations such as idol worshippers or heretics. And that is the reason God gave us our own land. Unfortunately, people don't want to live in the land of Israel, as has been like that throughout history, that the majority, after the exile of the second Bet HaMikdash, which is almost 2,000 years ago, most of the Jews wanted to remain behind in the exile, even when there were opportunities to live in the land of Israel. And today, more than ever, it is the easiest to live in the land of Israel. It's not a third world country. We have everything that they have in anywhere else in the world. But because the material lifestyle in the exile, in the diaspora, is much more better, and it's, so to say, an easier way of living, they decided that they're going to stay in the exile. In addition, some people say, when Mashiach comes, then I'll come to Israel. And today we're going to discuss why that is not such a smart decision. And we're also going to discuss that it is not just a mitzvah to live in the land of Israel. It is actually an obligation, a duty, a commandment to live in Israel. Just like you put on tefillin, just to keep Shabbat, if you're able to live in the land of Israel, you're obligated to do so. There are a few exemptions, but we'll get to that later. So firstly, I would like to discuss what's going on in the world today, and based on common sense, this is a highly likely scenario that will happen if the Jews don't come to Israel as soon as possible. The first thing is that the economy has been hit very, very hard, and things will never be the same again. People are losing their freedom little by little in the name of containing the sickness so that other people won't get it. People will not be happy with that, and people are not going to work now in most places. You may end up in a situation where you'll only be allowed to leave the house once a week to get groceries. You'll have like a voucher, you go to the store, you come back. And even if the government is helping you with food and letting you pay your bills later, like your rent, that is not going to suffice in the eyes of people, because bread is not enough to sustain a man, especially after living in materialism for so many decades. It's going to be very hard to now live a more simpler life. People are going to rebel against that, and this will eventually lead to violence, unfortunately, and looting, rioting. Once someone's, they're gonna, even if there is food, there might be, then people might think there's no food. They're gonna start robbing. They're gonna start stealing. In addition, the climate in America is very volatile. There is a lot of racial tension. There's a lot of political tension. So people can get set off very easily. A cop can kill someone by mistake or by purpose or whatever it is, and you all of a sudden see many riots all over the U.S. If America decides to enact martial law, which means that the military will be in charge of the cities and states in a certain capacity, you can look that up. That will also create a problem because these freedoms will be restricted, even though it may be necessary to do that to control the people from not going out in public because of this coronavirus. But people might say, you know what? Don't tell me what to do. I want to go out. That may create clashes with the police and with soldiers. That may create a lot of looting and rioting and buildings being burned down, God forbid. All of this is going to further damage the economy. And even if, because of the coronavirus doesn't happen, this could happen after the coronavirus is cured. A few months down the line, people are not going to be happy. They're all upset and agitated about what's been going on. Some events can happen in America. People are not going to be happy with it. It could be who becomes the next president. One side is going to be happy, one side's not. They may go out to the streets. One thing will lead to another, and there will be a lot of fighting and violence. In addition, a civil war between different races, between different political parties. You may go out in the street, and if someone doesn't like the color of your skin, he may attack you. And all of this will further damage the economy and will lower the value of the dollar. When you don't have someone taking care of the water maintenance and the natural gas and electricity, you may also lose that. If the guy's not going to go to work because he's afraid to walk on the street, you might have these shortages also. Food might become a shortage. Medicine might become a shortage. And we know that if people are afraid to go out the streets, and they won't be, even if they're going to go to the supermarket, there might be violence along the way. I checked, I think about half of America is on medication, if I'm not mistaken. And if it gets to a point where there's going to be total chaos on the streets because of people's anger, these 50% are not going to be able to get their medication. Now, some people have medication because they have some kind of condition. Other people are because of psychological issues. Now, when these people will not be able to get their medication anymore, many are going to die. And many of these people who have psychological conditions might kill themselves. And the other rest, they might be crazy. And they're going to go out on the streets. And there's going to be even more violence throughout the United States and other countries. So after all that happens, the currency of America, for in this case, is going to drop lower and lower. And what are people going to say after they fought each other and the race wars or civil wars, whatever it may be? They're going to say it's all the Jews' fault. The Jews are in control of all the money, and you're going to start having open racism towards the Jews. You already are starting to see it, and you've already seen the potential of rioting and looting over small things. When the Ferguson incident caused rioting in many cities, so people get agitated very fast. Doesn't matter what race you are. People have guns, and they will fight back the military and the police, unfortunately. And also, you just might be targeted. And especially as a Jew, you might try to hide that you're a Jew, but they're not going to care. They're going to try to find out who a Jew is, and they're going to blame you for the economic downfall of the United States and for possible inflation, and the Jews are going to be targeted. Who would want to live in that kind of situation? When you can live in the land of Israel, in your own land, the Jewish state that God gave us, the Holy Land, and which is even more, it's more under control than the United States. The population of the United States it's too large to control. You have the Jewish people here. The Jewish people are not going to go out and riot and kill each other. They might become a little less kind, it's possible, or the other way around. But you're not going to see the same kind, there's not the same kind of volatile anger that has been building up in America is not the same. Now the thing with the Arabs, we have a military and police force that can control these kind of problems, and it's not like in America where most people have guns. So I think that Israel is under much more control, and also in the merit of living in the land of Israel, we protect it. And if you see the prophecies, which I hope to bring in the next class, that Israel will be the safest place in the time of in the war of Gog and Magog. In addition, other things might happen to the U.S. There might be wars. Other countries might attack America. There might be terrorist attacks because they want resources or just to get revenge. Now, somewhere along this line, it could be in a month, it could be tomorrow, it could be in 5 years, but it's going to happen unless we all do teshuvah, we all do repentance, which it looks like, I don't know if it's going to happen that way. I think the first scenario is more likely that it's going to go down like that, where we're going to come to Israel in a very difficult circumstance, after a very difficult circumstance. Now, somewhere along the line, Mashiach is going to come. When Mashiach comes, one of his roles is to prove to the whole world that God is true, the Torah is true, and you're going to have millions of people, Jewish and Gentile alike, wanting to come to the land of Israel. And because of the economic situation, they will not be able to even, it's going to be very hard to buy a plane ticket to come to Israel. There might be a waiting list because of supply and demand. And from what I researched, there's, I think, 30,000 airplanes that are active at any given time. Not at the same time, because they can't all fly in the air at the same time. But now with the corona, they're even flying less. But let's say there was no corona right now. You can imagine the traffic there's going to be in the air to come to the land of Israel. Therefore, it will take a long time. They have to take turns with the planes. There can't be too many planes at the same time in the air. They're not prepared for that. And because of the inflation and the decline of the dollar, it will be very hard to buy a ticket. And when you see that it's too late and you want to sell your house and car, you may not be able to afford it you may not be able to sell those things anymore because no one wants to buy it. So also a ticket might cost $50,000. Who knows? Because everybody's gonna want it, and you might have the $50,000, and you'll end up coming here penniless. This reminds me of what happened in Sodom. When Lot was told to leave Sodom because it's going to be destroyed, he also hesitated. He said, it says in the Midrash, he said, what about my gold, my silver, and my pearls? How can I leave my fortune behind? And he was thinking of what he should take with him and what not to take with him. Also, at the same time, he had 4 daughters. He was telling his son-in-laws, listen, we got to get out of here. And they said, and I quote, the Midrash says, they laughed at his words. And they said, there's music and festivity in the city. What are you talking about? Why are you speaking about destruction? You crazy? And so he left them behind, and he left with some of his family, and the rest perished. And that is exactly the mentality of the exile. They don't want to leave their fortune behind. They're not even you're not even working right now. Buy a ticket right now. You have a chance. Come to Israel. Play it out. If America goes to hell, at least you're in Israel. And if it doesn't, so you have time to go back and sell all your things. Remember, there's a duty to come to the land of Israel. At least be here now. So you sit in quarantine for 14 days. Someone just moving 2 doors down from me. He just left and came from New York. You can do it too. While there's still flights, get a flight and come. If there's no flights, get the next flight in 2 months, 3 months, whatever it is. Buy that ticket, have it on hold, and come. It may be too late.